Hey everybody, welcome to Movies We're Talking About, where we talk and talk about movies. I'm John Carlos, and today I am joined by a new special guest. He is the host of the Carganilla Online Variety Entertainment Podcast, but also, I'd also say, moreover, for today's episode, the host of Titanic Legacy Podcast, Paul Carganilla. Say hi, Paul.
Hello. Thank you, everybody. Oh,
Look at these production values. I don't have
the,
that.
all the Titanic fans are here. They're ready. They can't wait.
I'm glad you brought them all. That's you for everybody out there. He's a very fancy podcaster. He's got the tech. He's got the tools. He's got the Titanic fans. And this sweater is an indication, everybody, why you're here. The reason I sit around and talk about movies on this podcast, I am very aware that you like Titanic a lot. I've never talked to you about this, but I am dying to find out, in the broadest terms, why Titanic. So welcome.
Well, we've known each other for a while. I think we probably met. I don't want to date ourselves, but a couple of decades ago. And yeah, you've been doing your thing. I've been doing my thing. I've been seeing your things. You've been seeing my things. And when you reached out and said, let's talk on this podcast, I've never talked about James Cameron's Titanic. And I went, okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm in. And I'm so honored and glad to be here. And any opportunity I have to talk Titanic, whether it's the movie or the actual historical event, I am down. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Look at that. And listen to that. But also look at that background. Look at that. You got the watery. Is the water is that always for the Titanic setup behind you?
Yeah, I record a lot like you do on Zoom and not a lot of editing, so I try and make it look as themed as I can. I did set up my VHS Titanic collection behind me. That's not usually there. For anybody that is listening to the audio podcast only, so there's a really funny story. It's not funny, it's tragic. Couple of years ago, I decided, after finding a couple of copies of Titanic on VHS, I have a collection. I wish I could show you a collection I'm a VHS sealed in original packaging with the watermarks collector of all my favorite movies. And one time I was at the local thrift store and there was 3 copies of Titanic on VHS for 99 cents each. And I said, I have to rescue these because Titanic on VHS was the number one selling. Titanic was the number one selling VHS tape of all time. I'm pretty sure, I believe. And I thought, these are all going to dumps, wastelands. Mm-hmm. I need to rescue them and become a Titanic VHS preserve. So I put the call out on social media. I started asking all my friends, if you still have Titanic on VHS, mail it to me. I will cover postage. And I will be the sanctuary for your Titanic on VHS. So I had about 30, maybe 33, 34 at the time. And then one day I'm cruising the internet and this clickbait comes up. Hey, have you seen this TikTok star collecting Titanic VHS? And I was like, what? And I checked it out. At that time, like back then, he only had like 300 or 400, but he was making this TikTok about it. And my collection was about 10% of his. And I told all my friends on social media, I was like, guys, somebody's already doing this. Forget it. I'm going to shut it down. And people were like, no, please take ours. So they kept sending me theirs. And I stopped collecting my Titanic on VHS around 125. I have about 130 copies now. But this guy caught fire on TikTok and people around the world just started sending him VHS tapes. And now I think he's up to like 2,000 or something like that.
Is he the Florida guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's like a Florida man that's got like 2,000. I know that.
A Florida man.
It's always a Florida man.
The headlights.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think it's cool. I did not contribute.
Hey,
This one's staying with me, man. But
yeah.
I respected the game.
Listen, I respect your respect for physical media. We should be teaching our children this.
Yes, we should.
Everybody's contracts change. Your streamers, they own things and then they don't. But you know what? If you own the physical media, then you've always got it.
Not only that, because that's true, especially when you think you're buying something and you're like, you're not. You're just paying for the access to something that they may eventually just lose, whereas you'll have it. But there's something that's happened over the years where, like, I kind of regret this. There's some like I used to like if I got the DVD, then I would sell the VHS. If I got the Blu-ray, I might sell the DVD. I kind of stopped doing that because I treat physical media almost like collecting different editions on vinyl.
Yeah.
Like pride of owner, like I like having the VHS of Titanic and then that special edition DVD of Titanic. I like it. Sometimes it's silly having 5 or 6 editions of the same movie, but you know
It
this one's the British 40th anniversary edition, and this is the one that's from Germany, and this is the American 30th anniversary. Like this shit matters to me, so I,
it seems
I
like we
regret all the VHSs I let go of. I wish
yeah,
I
yeah.
want my big wall of VHS that I used to have like in the '90s all over again.
I don't have a wall anymore, but I find something super cool about just having it sealed, watermarked. And I worked at Blockbuster. You did
Ooh,
too?
I worked at Suncoast.
You worked at Suncoast. Okay.
Yeah.
I was a Blockbuster assistant manager for a couple of years, and it was when we were transitioning from VHS to DVD. And so obviously VHS and DVD all have a special place in my heart. But it's so cool in my hunting for originals. This is totally off topic. I'm so sorry. We're taking this totally off the rails right now. But one of my faves is Somewhere in Time with Christopher
Christopher
Reeve.
Reeve. Yeah.
Yeah, and it came out the year that I was born, 1981. The VHS was released that year, but it was also released on Betamax. And I found on eBay, I've got both VHS and Betamax from 1981, the year I was born. So just to think, like one of my favorite movies, I have the first publication and it's still sealed and it's so cool to have. And people tell me all the time, like, you're gonna die and you leave this to your kids and who cares? And it's just like, I don't care. Like, this is for me.
Yeah.
This is my collection. This is for me. But you almost perfectly segued to from my Titanic VHSs to Titanic on first release on DVD to the 10-year anniversary DVD with all the extra special features to the Blu-ray and digital copy that came out for maybe the 15th reunion anniversary, but then the 4K
Yeah.
that just came
Oh,
out for the 25th. And it's like, why do we do this? We're like, we have the movie, we have
no,
access to it.
but if you love the movie and it's the 2000s and you have the DVD player and it's 720p, but then we go HD, we have to upgrade Titanic to HD.
Right.
If we've gone to 4K and the movie you love is in 4K, you have to upgrade it to 4K.
You
I
got it.
get, yeah.
I have the
Not now.
Laserdisc too. It's over there.
I refer to it as double dipping or triple dipping. I don't double dip. Like, for example, Titanic doesn't mean as much to me as it does to you. I own it on VHS. I own it on DVD. I've never upgraded to Blu-ray or 4K. Whereas, like, Labyrinth, I've had on VHS, 2 different DVDs, a Blu-ray, and a 4K. There's certain movies.
Oh, okay. But you do have a 4K player.
Oh, I do. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I've just this is where Titanic stops for me.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Is this special collector's edition? I mean, I just remember like I got it at a good price. I don't know if you remember this blue sleeved.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one came out at the same time as the red one.
You have a red one.
But it was the yours is the fancier version. I do not
Oh.
have the one that's in your hand. So good
Yeah,
for you.
and if and I don't know if where I got it from, but the second disc has like a European like the rating system. It says 14 on it. So I don't know where the fuck I got this from. I don't know.
It may be a
I
European version. I have the Spanish version. Do you want to see the Spanish version of the VHS?
see, senor.
Sí, señor. This is the Titanic. Uh, that's what the box looks like, and it's nada en el mundo podría superar el espectáculo épico y la conmovedora grandeza de Titanic. That's the Spanish
Oh
version.
yeah. What's that
Um,
say right in the middle there? It doesn't say El Diablo, does it? Right in the middle of the boat?
it says El Diario.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the previous owners. Like, this is mine.
Got it. Okay, I just yeah, I did couldn't tell if that was El
The devil,
Diablo.
the devil of Titanic.
Yeah. Now, so you and I are very similar in ages. I was born in 80. And so we were both, I think, in high school when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
I it's weird because I enjoyed this movie to a certain. I like it more now than I did then. But for a movie that I wasn't like nuts about, I somehow managed to see this in theaters 4 times. Part of that was because my high school girlfriend was obsessed.
Of course. Yeah.
Even before Titanic, she was obsessed with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right.
So Romeo and Juliet and Marvin's Room and all of that. But
Gilbert, Gilbert Grape.
Gilbert Grape. But I mean, but that was before my relationship with her. Is all I'm saying.
Right. Right.
But seeing this, I remember I saw it with my parents and my grandma, who doesn't speak English, and she still wept because there's so much of this movie that like you don't need to really understand the language to still be like, oh, that dude's an asshole. Like her fiance sucks. Her mom seems icy. She's in love with this guy. She's rich. Like it all, when there's a lot of movies that you start to, when you think about global audiences, even without subtitles, like Titanic could probably be understood by almost anybody.
Sure.
And also, my grandma did speak some English. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in theaters with her, and she like wept, and it worked. But yeah, I think I saw it 3 or 4 times just as a dutiful boyfriend.
Well, you mentioned so many elements of what made it so successful, in my humble opinion, in that just casual recollection of how it connected with people, in that James Cameron really hit a grand slam on a lot of levels. He, first and foremost, and the reason it was so successful was his love and interest in Titanic in history. And there is an element of Titanic that grabs you, grabs your soul. And I was almost 5 years old, sitting on my grandparents' Davenport, as they called it. It wasn't a couch, it was a Davenport. They had a subscription to National Geographic, and this isn't the actual issue from my grandparents' home, but I flipped this open one day and started to look at the pictures from this underwater fortress and just felt this really eerie, strange connection to it. And so that always hung with me. And I think that this is something that happens with people and ruins and historical things that are rooted in history that people romanticize about. James Cameron had that passion for this ship, and he's coming off all of his cinematic successes over the years, and he's at the height of his filmmaking power, getting green lights everywhere he turns. And what does he want to do? He wants to make a movie about this thing he is so passionate about. And it's a tragic, archaic shipwreck at the bottom of the ocean. What could we possibly do? And he says, he throws Titanic, an Illustrated History by Don Lynch, who's a good friend of mine now, on the counter in front of producers at Fox and says, Romeo and Juliet on the Titanic. And they went, take my money. And
And a lot of money.
they budgeted him $100 million.
Which was really, 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 really high in 96/97.
And do you know how much they spent? in the end. $200 million. It was a dumpster fire, just
It,
burning cash left and right.
if I remember correctly, wasn't it like the first $200 million movie? I remember at the time, wasn't it the most expensive movie ever made?
I mean, I imagine so. I'm
I
not sure.
feel
I
like
just
I read that like an Entertainment Weekly because the whole thing was that like this was supposed to be sort of like Walt's Folly with Snow White. Like you're not going to recuperate the money on this. You spent so much. You can't. This movie would have to be like the biggest hit ever to make money back.
There was so much drama. They almost shut it down after spending over $100 million on it. And it only got made because Cameron came back and pulled out his own wallet and said, I'm going to help this get finished." And I think, I don't know the exact numbers, but James Cameron, I think, spent like close to $50 million of his own money just to get it finished.
Yeah, I honestly, in my brain, I remember it just being 100. I feel like even at the time, 100 million was the most expensive movie ever made. I could be wrong, but I
Very
remember,
possible.
and that's also with like this was the other thing. I think this was maybe the first because this. I want to say it started with this. I'm sure it wasn't, but like Fox and Paramount present. I went two studios, and then there was this period where like yeah, from this into the early 2000s, you would see two studios together making one movie. You chip in this much, you chip in this much. I remember Fox had Paramount had home video rights, and I think US and like a cut of the US profits. Fox did a bunch of like the global release, so got a big chunk of like global profits. But like contracts are written, and this was one of the ways that you could make $100 million movie,
Hmm.
provided that you think it's going to be a hit, is two studios would invest in a single movie, which wasn't terribly common in 1997.
And so he gets the green light at this cheap $100 million level. But bringing it back around to your original recollections of it, it's Titanic is a story that it's global. It had just such a vast array of people from different cultures, from different parts of the world on it, and some of them, many of them, didn't even speak English, and so that became a big part of like maybe they would have survived if they spoke English. Maybe they would have survived if they had more money. Kind of all of the stories and all of the things you can unpack from this super tragic event that happened in 1912. But James Cameron knew, like, I love that he used Romeo and Juliet as his way in to get that funding from the studio to make this movie. Um, and then it's so funny the dichotomy of today. I think most people who talk smack about the movie have a problem with the love story, but they have no idea that like the movie wouldn't have even happened if the love story wasn't in the pitch. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, there's an even deeper tragedy of people, young people today who think Jack and Rose were actual historical figures. But
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
that's for another.
there's yeah, that's I won't get into it, but just there's a lot of little social media posts of them finding out. Wait, what? Jack and Rose aren't real? Yeah, which
It's
is
wild. But
yeah.
I mean, and to Cameron's credit, like he knew a lot of the stories of people who were on the ship and died with the ship and survived with the ship, and so he tied a lot of it together to make it so historical that there are elements of Rose's story that are similar to other passengers. That there was a Jack on the ship who survived. He was a very good-looking man, and his name was Jack Thayer, and his family was in first class, and he survived. And so some people think he's the real Jack of the Titanic. And so if you and I think that's why Titanic seems to be not just the movie, but the ship itself. Just it's still so intertwined in pop culture. All the different stories and possible spin-offs that happen. May I ask you a question on your podcast?
Yeah, yeah, please.
I saw this posited on social media and it sent my head into a loop. Can you think of a film that is a standalone film that is referenced more in pop culture than Titanic.
Standalone mean not part of a franchise?
Yeah.
Because I mean, my first thought is like, I am your father, like Star Wars. Come on, but like
Right.
it stopped being standalone.
And
three
that
years
was the
later.
sequel.
Um, a standalone fuck, pressure's on a standalone movie that has been referenced more in pop culture than Titanic. So, and just by sheer volume, because I feel like Wizard of Oz might give that a run for its money,
Okay.
right? Like everyone knows, like I'll get you my pretty and your little dog too. There's no place like home. Like,
But think TikTok today.
okay, so we're not just counting the decades. We're
Pop
really
culture. Pop culture today.
yeah, okay. So, because farts.
The closest what
I
I've
mean, I mean, Clueless is really quotable, but like,
it's very quotable. It's
yeah,
not as
like it is
prevalent.
endlessly quotable.
Right.
Um,
I've heard Forrest Gump and uh I think Wizard of Oz is good. People
Forrest,
could be devil's advocate and say Wicked, but I think
no, but the thing about Forrest, like, no one is taping out like the door and trying to reposition two people on it, like anything in Forrest Gump. You know what I mean? As far as like TikToks and videos go.
it's true.
Yeah. I just saw like I hated it because it was AI, but someone's like, apropos, like it's funny. I didn't even tell them I was doing this podcast, but a few days ago, someone's like, "Hey," and they showed me a thing they thought I would like, and it was if Titanic was made today, and it's Rose going down on the little boat, and Cal and Jack look at each other and start making out.
Right.
And I was like,
So
okay,
woke. Yeah.
but that's proving your point right there.
Yeah, people are still, and that's the thing is like, and I started my podcast because I looked out across the social media or the podcasting landscape, and um, I saw so many new things being created, so much new content being created just around Titanic in general, not just the movie, but Titanic in history, that I wanted to talk to people and find out why. What is it that continues to keep this fire burning? And it feels like Titanic in pop culture, Titanic in the world, it just keeps growing.
I mean,
And I
well,
think
we live in a pardon me, but we do live in an age where we had the DVD accessibility, and now it's available. We have it's different from when a generation grew up to the next generation and maybe be on TV. So we all grew up seeing Wizard of Oz when it played every Easter or something. But now it's very easy for you to show your kids, boop, Paramount Plus, look, there it is. That's
absolutely.
part of it is accessibility. It came out at the right time where a certain generation had it on DVD, the next generation, like that fluidity. We're talking like three generations, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And something wild that I've discovered when having conversations with people who fell in love with the film, like a lot of the people, I'm sorry, John Carlos, but are younger than me. A lot of the people were 8 years old when it came out in theaters, and their parents just took them because their parents wanted to see it and they got hooked. And now they're Titanic fans for life because it was their first epic movie they saw in the movie theater, and it's just stuck with them. And I would argue, and I'd love to hear your point of view, but like, was Titanic the last truly epic movie filmed not on blue screen?
It might be. It's one of the things that struck me because I just watched it a few days ago in preparation for this because I haven't watched it in a while. I think the last time I saw it was the 3D re-release in like what 2017 or, or 2007, so
Yeah, it'd be
2012.
2017.
2012.
Wait, 12.
Yeah,
2022.
it's either on a 0 or a 5 anniversary, so it's
There was one a couple of years ago on the 25th anniversary.
whenever the first 3D re-release was.
Oh, the first 3D release.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a while back.
yeah, that's the last time I saw it. So
Okay.
it's been a while.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Can you remember, is there, in your opinion, a
Oh,
last, like, was that the last epic sets, sweeping shots
I mean,
before green
I
screen?
I kind of want to. say the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because they did really go out to all these fields in New Zealand and like get helicopters and just fly them over people climbing real fucking mountains. And yes, there's computer generated stuff, but even the things that are fake, they're like they weren't even miniatures at that point. They were called bigatures, and they're like, we're just going to build this castle. It's like the size of a one-story house, and we're going to fly a helicopter around this giant fucking little big castle and composite it into things. And I mean, they flew those casts and put them onto some volcanoes and said, "All right, we're gonna climb this mountain now." I feel like,
I know. I probably misspoke because I talked to somebody who's working on Odyssey right now, and they're like, "Oh
oh,
my god!" And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay."
I
So
mean, but we live in an age now where we get so thrilled by that sort of thing. One of
right,
the coolest things about everyone wanting to go see Mad Max Fury Road was just like, did you hear that they just built these giant fucking trucks and just drove through Australia and filmed this shit? There's some CGI wire removal, but like, like 90% of this movie is just crazy fuckers doing crazy shit. Isn't that thrilling? Isn't it thrilling when Tom Cruise really flies a helicopter and really falls out of a helicopter, and like that was this is what James Cameron was doing back then, and it took a while for us to all kind of come back around again, and we're so over the green screen, gray skies, digital, blah 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 blah, that the real is the draw now. And
yeah,
that was part of the draw then. So I guess to answer your question, I would probably give it up to Lord of the Rings to a certain degree, because there is CGI shit in this. There are shots of the boat that's like either a model or it's digital, or the water. Like there's computer enhancement going on here. It's not 100%, but there is. They did go into fucking Mexico and build a boat and put people in the water. Like, um, but yeah,
that's
that
that's what Cameron's really good at, and is mixing the CGI with the practical.
yeah,
And that, I mean, even when we were seeing it in theaters back in the day, those big sweeping shots, it was the first time we ever saw anything like it.
yeah.
That's why it was so cool. And people will look at it now and say, oh my gosh, it looks like a terrible video game. A lot of those shots with the people walking as the helicopter shot is flying over. But
Over the
yeah,
boat, yeah.
it was groundbreaking though, and we hadn't seen anything like that. And it was on the big screen in this big theater where people actually used to go watch movies in a theater, and it was like mind-blowing to us. It was groundbreaking at the time, and it was as epic as just the whole film.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that shot in particular up, because it's weird to say. There were things in this that were still new that we had never seen before, even though it's just a boat. The fact that it's such a big fucking boat. But also, there was a huge thing about digital people. I remember this being one of the first examples of digital people.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, in a very short amount of time, you had, like, let's see if I remember this correctly, like The Abyss and the Water Tentacle was like 91, Terminator 2 and Liquid Metal Guy was 2002, 92, Jurassic Park was 93, Forrest Gump was like 94. We're looking at all these big benchmarks of like, I've never seen that before. I've never seen a T-Rex before. I've never seen John Lennon and Tom Hanks interacting before, JFK. All these things that were new, new, new. By the time you get to Titanic, it was like, yeah, we built a partially, slightly descaled part of a boat, and we put it out in the water. And it's crazy that we're just stuntmen are sliding down it and falling out into the water. But there's also a lot of digitally enhanced shots that like we could not achieve. And that big one was that shot starting on the bow and going across the whole thing. And I'll never forget hearing the words like, oh, yeah, yeah, we were doing digital people. I'm like, digital what? Yeah, CGI people. Like this shot of all the people on the deck, they're all fake. In particular, I remember this one shot, not one shot, but this one spot. I don't want to say like I made fun of it, but I did used to do like an impersonation of it where like the camera's passing over the top. I think the captain's already out, and this guy is approaching him and telling him something. And the CGI guy's like, wah, 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 wah. And then we cut to like the real guy moving like a human. And I'm like, those two things do not match. I realized in 1990, it's a very wide shot.
Yeah.
He's like that big. But we hadn't got there yet. And I remember that I was very aware of the technology when I watched it. But now, watching it in 2025. Yeah, I'm old. 2025.
Where are we?
Um, there's actually something kind of, dare I say, like nostalgic
Sure.
for 90s CGI.
Yeah. It was reminiscent of like video games. Like if we were playing Sim City or NBA 2K or Madden, like your characters walked like that. And so while you're in the theater and seeing this beautiful sweeping shot and then but to watch it match up with it cuts to actual humans.
Yeah.
Like that's hard to do. But I think for his time, Cameron did it very well.
I'll tell you, there's another one that like, oof, like it's both great and terrible at the same time.
Yeah.
Is the stunt people running down the hallway, the stunt
Mm.
Jack and stunt
Mhm.
Kate with the little face trying to match, like
That always bothered.
that's still hard to do now. So like, I mean, it can be done well if you take the time. But like, for example, like I recently rewatched Blades of Glory, and like every time they put like a John Heater or Will Ferrell on like an ice skater's body, you're like, that is not great. It's
Yeah.
a comedy, who cares? But the thing about that shot in Titanic is that by today's standards, it's rough.
Mm.
But they were trying to, I don't want to say they were running before they could walk, but they were definitely biting off kind of more than they could chew at the time. And it's pretty impressive for 1997. Like you could see it doesn't work, but like when I sat in theaters, I didn't even notice.
Yeah. I think there were two main challenges for that shot was one was it was all straight toward the camera and you're getting actors' emotions. I mean, you don't need any more of a challenge than that, but then also I think it's done in slow-mo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, ooh, very ambitious of you, James.
And the bodies are like doing this. So it's not even just like, well, we just match a static head. It has to like,
Hmm.
yeah. I've seen it, but it's interesting because it's done really well in Jurassic Park. God, I can't remember her name. I can't remember the there's two kids. The girl.
Ariana.
I mean, that's her real name. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Lexi.
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 When they're climbing up and she falls down that panel and the raptor jumps up right when they pull her up. The stunt lady famously looked up for a few seconds and they're like, fuck, the stunt lady looked up. We have to now put Ariana's face on there.
Oh.
And it looks great. Granted, it's only doing this, like versus a slow mo shot that never cuts.
Right.
And the lighting is flickering in and out, and that's always, I mean, that's always to me the selling point that sells the effect is when it isn't just a clean plate, but when shadows or lighting or anything changes.
Mm,
If you can incorporate that in, that sells the effect more because it feels like a real exterior element
sure.
is happening. So I mean, I respect the attempt. Um,
Listen, James Cameron is ambitious.
so it well, I mean, that's the whole thing about this movie.
Mm,
Uh, that I was constantly reminded. I would say this movie, in my opinion, has aged uh, better than a. I don't want to compare it to. I'm just saying I think it plays better for me now than it ever did in '97. And there's
wow.
so many different factors. One of them is the element of the reel that's being used when it compared to an age now where we shoot in the volume, we shoot on green screen, even when we shoot on location, we're going to add that in post. But besides the obvious, besides the reel, one of the things is just the sheer budget and ambition of two things. One, as a production, when you look at, and I couldn't even imagine what the producers were thinking on this. You know, you've worked in production, and I'm sure you're aware that you take a script and like a line producer, somebody breaks down, well, what locations do we go to? What's going to be our shot list? What do we need? We have meetings about what are the needs of a costume department. To look at all that, to be like, the fucking plates are going to look just like the plates that they ate off the sheer size of it, of how do we sit down and decide we're going to show this boat sinking? Well, CGI, but also models, but also out in Mexico, we're going to build a boat How are we going to show people like falling off the boat and dying? How about we just have some people and we're just like, it's such a big production, and where you sit down and figure all that out. And then
It's
the other part is, I in 1997, like it won a lot of Oscars. It famously did not win Best Actor, it did not win Best Actress, and it didn't win Screenplay. And I'm fine with that. However, I think some credit needs to be given to the screenplay in that it's a big story too, with a lot of, forget Jack and Rose, all the other little plates that are spinning, all the little
mm,
supporting stories, little bits of history, the structure of it, of how do you space all this out and create a story that gives us an excuse for Jack and Rose to like run through the engines and come up here and get, and so we can experience the boat,
yeah.
experience all the little bits of history without just stopping the movie and kind of explaining and making it feel like a history lesson. There is a very kind of way it's weaved, and to sit down, be critical of the dialogue all you want if you want to be a snob, but like how do you sit down and actually like write and pace and build this story? It's really fucking impressive.
It's insane. And gosh darn it. So over the years, and through my podcast and through my Titanic fandom enthusiasm, I've been blessed to get to know a lot of the people who worked, not behind the scenes, but on set. I just hosted our Titanic anniversary event on the Queen Mary, in which we got to have filmmaker director Alexandra Boyd just put out this movie that I'm not just, it's not a shameless plug, but it totally ties into what we're talking about here. Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries. She was one of the core extras. You actually see her look checking Jack out as he comes into the first class dinner scene. And so she was one of the actresses on set, background actresses on set, but James Cameron wanted to create like a cruise ship atmosphere where you are seeing people that you saw in previous scenes. Because if you've ever been on a cruise ship or if you've sailed across the Atlantic Ocean on one single vessel, you're going to see a lot of the same people every day. So a lot of the actors were given characters and were in different scenes in different parts of the ship, and you can see them in the background. That was always one of my favorite things about the movie, was the incredible work in the background. Like it's not a regular movie where it's blah 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 watermelon cantaloupe or whatever background actors are supposed to say. Like everybody had a story, and this was all encapsulated in something Cameron definitely wanted to do. Was there's different actors that you see several times throughout the movie. One of my friends that was on the Queen Mary with us for the anniversary event in April. She's the redheaded Irish wife of the band leader. So she's standing next to Jack as they're waving goodbye. She's down in the third party uh third class party scene. Her husband's the drummer. She's the one who says Jesus, Mary, and Joseph when Rose is doing her ballet stuff, and then she's floating frozen dead. Like these background actors have an arc in James's story. And what is wild is, like, as a director, like as a film director, to have this control where you're standing in a room in Fox pitching Romeo and Juliet on the Titanic, and then you're able to figure out all the nuts and bolts. I mean, the director's not doing all that minutia, but Fox, the studio, carved a site out of a mountain in Rosarito, Mexico, to build a tank with millions of gallons of seawater in it, to build a set that is going to sink. And that set that you see sinking in the water, that was like a shell. But all the interiors are built in studio settings that are built on the same lot. And so you've got all of this production work. And then just to think to just like wrap your mind around what it takes to get an actor onto set, into a costume, in makeup, at a point in time where you're ready to say action on a set that is built over X amount of months and the paint is still drying and just like all of like the massive scope that goes into producing a film like this that is then talked about for at least 3 centuries now, almost 3 centuries now. Centuries,
Decades.
decades. Thank you. But who
Time
knows?
time will tell.
Time will tell. Um, and it was such a blip. And I'm so sorry I keep talking about so much of the production value. I'd love to talk more about the story, but I cannot not mention with all of the drama and the budgeting and all of the stuff that happened with the creation of the film, Fox was super worried that it would bomb and it would be the end of James Cameron and it would be the end of like Fox's epic movies. They literally just trashed the set and swept it under the rug, left it on a farmland out there that they didn't own. And this Mexican farmer came home from a vacation one day and found the trashed set of Titanic on his land and put an ad in the paper and said, anybody want to come get Hollywood movie stuff? Come get it. And some savvy folks in Southern California started going down and just going, this is a James Cameron film? We can just grab stuff? Okay, cool. And now part of that is just like a huge part of Titanic collector ambitions and is still ongoing. And people like me have, and you talk about the scope of the film. Can I just share some things that I have?
Yeah, I was hoping you would, because there's one that I know of.
The one you sent me the screenshot of?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
your wife gave you that, right?
she did for my birthday. So Rose stops on her way to commit suicide and just kind of has a moment. I'm sorry, I should say Rose stops on her way to decide to take her own life and uh, takes a moment leaning over one of the capstan wheels from the set. And it's literally this one. And we talk about budget and production. This is a heavy piece. Like it is iron, it is welded, and it is like just a minuscule part of the set, but it's a legit, you can hear my, it is a solid piece of set building. Um,
Now I'm glad you showed that because typically there are some things that we see in movies that might be foam, they're painted to look a certain way, but with James Cameron, he's like, no, no, no. Get me, it's all real, it's all iron, it's all the thing.
well, and that's the thing. And that was part of the set that was just like built in this epic tank b- dug into the side of the cliff there. I've got a clipping from the first class dinner party scene. This is the tablecloth that was used. Oh gosh, it's going to be bad for your podcast people, but um, the make it count dinner party scene. I've got a clipping from the tablecloth. These were all recovered from just this guy in San Diego. His name is Dave Condon, who went down and recovered a bunch of stuff. So there's a scene where the first class dining room is going underwater, and we see saucers and plates floating. They found when they were filming them that it was difficult to sink the set at a rate that would make the porcelain plates and teacups not sink. But Cameron wanted, his vision was to see some plates and teacups floating and clinking together so he could get that sound. So they made like these wax slash plastic versions of the teacups and the plates that would float for sure. And so in those scenes where you see the teacups floating and hitting each other, there's these like waxy plastic versions, and I was able to get one of those. But um, so they left the entire set that Fox had spent over $100 million on in this random farmer's field, and people went and they still today he says he will go get his tires changed at a mechanic in Mexico and go look up at a wall and go, oh, that was Molly Brown's State House wall, because people like were just building parts of their houses and their car shops out of pieces of the Titanic set.
That's wild.
That was such a crazy hard left turn, and thank you for letting me go down it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's why you're here, man. Now that's a documentary I would watch.
Oh man, I'll send you a link to my friend Alexandra who made this movie with the diaries of background actors from the set. She has a podcast, and I'll send you an episode that he talks about his whole story. It's fabulous.
Sounds cool. Um, there's I let me I don't know how to word this, but let me just ask you, how do you feel about the subject of the decision to not make a fully biographical film, but to take two brand new characters that are fictional as your main characters, your entry point to the story, versus not so much. I don't know. I've always found it interesting that they're interacting with real people.
Yeah.
So these real people never had these conversations, but we are still depicting real people. Um, I don't find it like macabre or anything, but it does lead to a generation of TikTok kids who go, wait, what? Because there's so many other movies where if you were telling the story of a historical event, you might 100% focus on the truth of it, the truth of it, and the truth of it. And now we have this very famous movie that's gone through history that is considered an historical epic, and it does depict a historical event, but at its front center spotlight is fiction.
I had a conversation with Don Lynch, who is the historian of the Titanic Historical Society, has been for decades, about the kind of the same um, issue. And it's interesting because it's like, while there are really amazing stories, actual fictional, I mean, not non-fictional stories, historical accounts, that you couldn't weave them together in a way that would grab an audience like Jack and Rose. You could take a piece from here and a piece from there and kind of weave it together.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what James Cameron did. I have become friends with a granddaughter of one of the survivors. She was a 16-year-old bride from Lebanon on Titanic. She had just gotten married. She was coming to the United States with her brand new husband and was put on a boat and tried to get off the boat to get back on Titanic to be with him. And like, that's a scene from the movie, but it's also just a clip from history that, if woven together, and I think, it's again, it just like shows what Cameron knew, how Cameron knew he could get funding for his Titanic movie that he wanted to make, Romeo and Juliet on Titanic. But he also wove in so many aspects of real, eyewitness accounts. And I know he's got regrets. He has made public apologies to the family of, if you remember, the first officer that put the gun to his head. Like, you're taking a real historical figure and taking artistic liberties and making this a scene when we don't know if that actually happened. The family was really upset. First Officer Murdoch's family was really upset about that. But and Cameron did apologize, but it's also just like nobody actually knows what happened. And based on certain accounts, that might have happened. So a lot of it is, you know, I put it in there for the dramatic effect of the movie. Maybe it's not historically accurate, but the perpetual question in the Titanic enthusiast community, I think, is, you know, how much value does Titanic fiction and fan fiction hold? How appropriate is it these days? And that's a tough question because if James Cameron didn't make this movie, would Titanic still be something people still talk about?
Right. Well, I feel like, I mean, to a certain degree, yes, because even before this movie happened, I mean, I'm only speaking for me here, but before this movie happened, I was fascinated.
Yeah.
I didn't have a National Geographic when I was 5, but around age 7 or 8, I remember seeing a TV special on it. And they had sent some kind of submersible with a camera. And I remember being fascinated because I'd never seen anything like this before. And it broke my brain as like an 8-year-old. It was like a ballroom, but it was underwater and it was
Mhm.
old. And I didn't know, what do you no, ballrooms are ballrooms and they're nice and they're normal and they have people in them. What do you mean it's at the fucking bottom of the ocean? And there was like a chandelier and I don't know what part. All I remember is as a kid I thought they looked like grapes. And I didn't know if it was like ornate or if it was something that used to be shiny that became, but I just remember looking at this underwater orbs and it felt foreign but familiar and I just became fascinated.
Mm.
And I feel like considering just the sheer nature of its place in history, I feel like we would never forget about it. But I
Mm.
guarantee that movie has dialed it up in a way that I think has
I
dialed it up is the only other way I could describe it.
I think it's tied for the most Oscars in history.
Yeah, that and Return of the King, I think, are the most nominations. And then it tied with some other movie for, I think, the most wins.
I think maybe Schindler's for the most wins.
I think it was something old, but
Mm. We can we'll fix that in post.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, but one of the things, yeah, it's there's so much attention to detail. Like I remember, like I'm sure they tell me this is true. The little boy who spins the top, isn't that like a real kid or someone did it? There's an account or a painting or a drawing, but isn't that like a real person?
Yeah, so
Like, yeah,
yeah, so there's this is a fascinating story too. I don't know how much you want to go off the rails. We could be here all night. But so there was a religious leader from so Titanic made a bunch of stops before it started from the last stop was in Cove, Ireland. It was then called Queenstown, Ireland, back to the United States. But there was a religious leader. His name is Father Brown, and he had a camera. And he rode on Titanic from where it was built in Belfast down to Southampton, where it originally launched. It made a couple of stops, and then the last stop before it, the main voyage was in Cove, and he had to get off in Cove. So, but he had made friends with this first class couple that said, "Oh my gosh, what is this camera thing? Will you come along with us? We'll pay your ticket. Just come take pictures of us on this voyage." And he's like, "I'd love to." But then his supervisor was like, "No, you're getting off in Cove. You're staying here." So he had to stay and develop his film. So there are some pictures from Titanic's first voyage that are around, and they are in Father Brown's album. And one of them is this child spinning a top with his father watching and another person standing by with a hunchback. And it's an iconic photo from the actual first voyage of Titanic. It was obviously taken before the last stop. Um, but our friend Don Lynch, that I just talked about, who's the historian for the Titanic Historical Society, was James Cameron's uh, person on set that he turned to for all the facts, whatever that's called, the historian, factual historian for Cameron's movie. And Cameron said, "Do you want to play Frederick Spedden, who's the dad?" So that is actually Titanic's number one historian in Cameron's film as the dad of the kid spinning the top. And that's a fun little tie in there. But sadly, so yeah, that is based on an actual photo that was taken on Titanic's maiden voyage. But sadly, so this kid who's spinning the top survives the sinking, makes it to the United States of America, gets hit by a car and dies. That's some Final Destination bullshit right there. Like he survived the sinking of Titanic to make it to America, only to be unalived by a vehicle.
That's rough.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff that
Yeah,
Cameron did. There, like he really wove a lot of the stuff that
that's what I'm
actually
getting at.
happened within his film. Like
Right. Please
the
go on.
where Captain Smith is urging Bruce Ismay to, no, sorry, the other way around. Bruce Ismay is urging Captain Smith, if we get there earlier, maybe we'll set some records and make the first front row or first page of the paper. There's like a subtle little look to a lady teaching her daughter something at the next table over, and that's an eyewitness account from a lady who claimed that Bruce Ismay was urging Captain Smith to go faster. There's just so many things throughout the movie that are just based in reality.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't another one the other guy who's climbing on the back, who's
Yeah.
taking a drink?
Yeah.
He survived, right?
Charles Joffin was the chief baker on Titanic, and he was known to have a drink. And his
Allegedly, it kept him alive, right? Is this the guy?
oh, allegedly,
Right.
there's a lot of interesting stories about that. One story
Yeah.
is that this baker, he loved his scotch and he always kept a flask, but he had his life vest on, and as Titanic just like the people who were there say that it silently slipped underwater, so it wasn't like in James Cameron's movie where there was a suction and crazy stuff as it sunk under, but the bow of the ship slowly sunk under, and Charles Joffin was standing on it, drunk, with his life vest on, and stepped into the water. His hair never got wet. He ended up on, there was one lifeboat that was capsized that a lot of people worked throughout the hours following to keep it up without sinking. And he made it onto that. And so the legend is his hair never got wet. He was the last person to step off Titanic and his hair never was wet.
Fascinating. Now,
Crazy, right?
I feel like I've read about the science about whether or not also survived the cold water because the booze warmed him up. And then there's science about like, well, booze doesn't actually warm you up. It does something to your nerves that you don't register certain things, so it feels like warmth, but it isn't actual warmth. And then I've read other things like, no, actually, you should get drunk if you're going to be in cold water. And I'm like, okay, there's too many. I'm reading too many different conflicting things, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But I attempted to go down that rabbit hole, and the internet is just a terrible source of disinformation. But
I
yeah,
think I think the main argument is it's the more booze you have, the more difficult it is to decipher the passage of time. And so his reports after the sinking as to how much time he spent in the water is what's most
interesting.
debated.
Well, we talked about a few of these examples. Why I brought some of these up was that there's so much attention to detail to real people, real moments, real eyewitness accounts for little glimpses here and there. The fact that also just like they're not just forks, they're replicas of the fucking forks that were on the Titanic. All of that helps it feel historical enough that it doesn't feel gross. that you are telling a fictional thing against a real tragedy and maybe depicting certain things the way they didn't happen, blah, 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 blah. I feel like, at least for me, it succeeds in its fiction because of its attention to detail in all of its nonfiction.
I
I know some people maybe don't get there, and then some people don't care.
Yeah, no. So it's really interesting with Titanic. I've spoken to on my podcast so many family members of survivors, and I've heard a lot of people say we didn't talk about it. You didn't talk when after Titanic happened, you didn't talk about it. Your survivor family member did not want to talk about it. You don't bring it up. And so much was lost
Mm,
in that. The city of Belfast in Ireland built Titanic. Titanic was like their Super Bowl. It was their crown jewel. It went out and sunk. It was deemed unsinkable. It went out and sunk on the first voyage. No one in Belfast could talk about it. And so for a good 4 or 5 decades, people who were like you weren't talking about Titanic unless you were trying to make money off of it in those early years. The people who like were truly traumatized and had the PTSD were not talking were not and then would pass away without sharing their knowledge or their memories with their families. And so it became something that people didn't start talking about until the survivors were about to die.
mm.
And so then it became like, how much can we get right now? And then that kind of became a here's this person's memoir, here's this person's memories of it. And that started selling books and that started selling TV shows and specials. And so it's this really interesting thing where it's like, for the longest time, we lost so much information about what happened, not just on that last night, but on the voyage, because all of those memories were lost to the years and the people who just took them to their graves with them. And now there's this boom where it's like people are interested in it because the flower is opening up and people are telling their stories and finally deciding to bring it into the mainstream. And so I think it's this really interesting thing where it's like we're riding that line of can we tell the story and honor the memory and increase the awareness while not disgracing, not being disrespectful, but helping to grow the popularity in a way that makes it still relevant and keeps people in our memory without being a total money grab, which has become a big subject lately with salvage rights and stuff like that.
I never really thought about this. The idea that like there's a period where people weren't talking about it. So maybe by the time you start filming in 1996, there isn't maybe enough data for you to just make 100% nonfiction movie, especially where maybe you're not anchored by two lead characters, but it's an ensemble film and you're just telling the truth of it. If there isn't enough data to tell the truth, what do you do? And I've never really considered that.
There's a lot of still fictional stories written from Titanic because it sells. And Don Lynch, I keep talking about Don Lynch. He's the number one historian alive today. And I had him on my podcast and I asked him, like, how much is the new fiction, how much is the fictional storytelling helping, if at all? And he said, it's interesting. I'll have authors who are writing fictional stories about Titanic send drafts to me and ask me to check it for historical accuracy. And I'll say, how can I do that when this is a fictional story? Like it's either fiction or nonfiction. And he understands. Of course, he played the father of the boy spinning the top in the movie, like how important it is to keep the narrative going in pop culture, but not completely disrespect the memory and the
Right.
victims and families of what actually happened.
'Cause, yeah, documentary footage didn't exist for it. There's only so much. Unfortunately, not every single person on the boat was keeping a journal.
Right?
There's only so much on boat data that exists. Um, so I get it. It's interesting to me. I'm trying to look up his name right here. Whoever you're going to tell me, I was just going to call him Victor Garber, but like Thomas Andrews, real dude, but but Rose, not a real person.
Right.
Do we know that there are people that were kind of like an approximation of Rose? Sure, but did they ever talk to Victor Garber? No. So it's curious to me to not just the idea of having a complete work of fiction interacting with a nonfiction person, and whether or not like for example the guy you're talking about who shoots himself, how a family responds to a potentially fictional depiction of something. But I mean, I feel like at least for me, I kind of would rather have that than than a whole entire movie of just fictional characters, like everyone. You know, I, I'd. I don't know if this is disrespectful to real people, but like, I getting a real person's story wrong. If you attempted to make the entire movie non-fictional characters, and you're making up as much as you can, and now we're just fabricating all of the lead characters who are all real people, and we're essentially getting them all wrong. I kind of like the idea of like, well, let's get this much right and this much right and this much right, instead of just making up a bunch of nonsense.
I love it. It's fan fiction at its finest.
It
It's
really is.
yeah. Um like for we talk about James Cameron and how like he is like still today one of the number one Titanic um authorities in the media and in history books. He knows so much about Titanic and um
He kept going down there.
he yeah, he's been
Like,
down there the most out of anybody in the world now that
but after the success of Titanic, he didn't go and just make Avatar in 1999 or 2000. He
right.
spent many, many years just going back and making more documentaries in IMAX and
And I love his respect for movies. I have this James Cameron's illustrated screenplay, and it's the screenplay, his original screenplay, and then he goes through and he makes notes and he tells you what got cut and why, and he highlights things that were ad-libbed by actors, and it's just it's like amazing to see as someone who makes films, like you have the transparency to show people some of the lines in here are embarrassing. I mean, can you imagine James Cameron writing embarrassing dialogue? Yes, absolutely. That was a trick question. But to be able to show people like this is what I wrote, it was deleted because it was bad, or it was deleted because DiCaprio had a better idea. And it's so much fun to go through and see his process, but also his transparency. Like his, have you seen the original ending of Titanic?
I feel like when it came out on DVD, I might have, but I don't remember.
Mm.
Again, I'm not hardcore. That's why you are here.
It's awful. It is terrible. So Paxton's character comes out and stops Rose from throwing the necklace over and says, "Just let me hold it," like a little schoolboy, and she lets him hold it, and he starts crying, and then he gives it back to her so she can throw it over the side. It's awful. But he's like willing to say, like, I'm not perfect. Every script like is a work in progress, and they showed Titanic to several test audiences who had a lot of very passionate things to say about it, and then it ended up being what it did.
I mean, I can see them being passionate too, in particular because, and I'll admit, I was not in the '90s the biggest fan of a lot of the acting choices of a lot of the characters in this. I have
Yeah.
grown to appreciate, and I think when I was 16 when this movie came out, I didn't have the perspective to even appreciate the fact that it's intentionally a melodrama. I just thought the acting was bad.
Right.
And not bad, but like Cal is very mustache twirly, ham-fisted in his villainy.
Yeah.
Um, you get older and you see enough movies and you start to understand the genre it's playing in, the choices it's making, the tone it's going for you to then to realize, no, these are intentional choices. In almost in the same way, I look at like The Notebook, and I look at like how painfully old-fashioned it is trying to be.
Yeah.
So, uh, in fact, one of the things that really clicked for me several years ago that really made me appreciate the movie and its acting is this idea that, forget to the fact that we're intentionally going for an old-fashioned melodramatic love story, so it's all melodrama. Um, the idea that the story is being, stop me if you've already heard this or not, but the story is being told by Rose. Old Rose looking back. So Rose in the movie, the Kate Winslet Rose, is the only kind of real, like, straightforward played character. And everyone else is this sort of exaggeration because it's all old Rose's memory of it. So it isn't just Jack was a nice guy. Jack is the most painfully handsome guy. He's an artist, and when he looks out to the ocean, he's the most, the wind blows his face. He doesn't just love Rose. He always wants what's best for her all the time. He is the most romanticized, selfless, puts Rose first guy.
Mm.
Cal isn't just a shitty husband. He is an aggressively, when he's looking in the mirror, looking at Rose and talking about the necklace, he's still looking at his own fucking face. Like, he is a devious, conceited, cartoonishly bad husband. Her mom isn't just kind of cold. She is incredibly icy. Molly Brown isn't just friendly. She is a real, like, everyone is exaggerated except Rose because she's the only one whose memory is her own pure memory. Whereas Fabrizio isn't just Italian. He is the most Italian guy on the boat. It's, the
I love
exaggeration is sort of meant to be an old person's not totally accurate memory of how it all went down. And that works for me.
I hadn't heard that, but I have two different ways I want to pick your brain about.
Okay.
One is a big complaint that people have about the way the screenplay is written is, if this is Rose's memory, how do we get to see scenes that she wasn't in?
That has never bothered me. It's the language of cinema. Like, we're watching a movie here, man. Like,
Thank you. Okay, thank
yeah.
you. The other is, and I've written the outline of a screenplay for it, and it's just going to be so much fun when I finally get around to sit and do it. But can you imagine the same story, but Cal is the hero? Rose is the worst character in the movie. She's awful to everyone except Jack. But she survives with the diamond and hides away from Cal. Like, I mean, of course, she doesn't ever do anything with the diamond, but Cal goes and unalives himself in the Great Depression. But, given the trope that every villain is the hero of his own movie.
Hmm.
How exciting would it be to see Cal's version?
I mean, the I don't I don't even know where to begin. The thing about Rose that I wouldn't say I've bumped into, but I feel like the movie just doesn't do enough to get me there is, and this is one of the few times where it doesn't show me, don't tell me, is she gets on the boat, boo, I'm rich, I don't, my mom, meh. And then just very quickly, there's a voiceover that explains why I'm so unhappy and I need to just go run off this boat and jump off it. I go, oh, shit. All right. You really just gave me a little voiceover and she's going to end it all. I'm not disrespecting anyone who's like rich and struggles with their family and I would never say, like, oh, boo hoo.
No, it's a
But
valid point.
it doesn't, I don't fully have enough there to sympathize with her in her beginnings. But yes, I can see that there is a version of this from Cal and her mom's point of view where she's just being insufferable at dinner, and now she's hanging out with this guy and she's spitting. Like,
Well, see,
sure, there is a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern dead version of this. Um,
I mean, I'm deeply entrenched in the Titanic universe, but there are so many people who have said, if Rose stayed on the lifeboat as it was being lowered, Jack would have survived. And the reason he's dead is because she jumped back onto the ship and now he's responsible for her. So it's just, I mean, this movie it's so popular that there's just Reddit threads all over the world about how many different things could have happened. But I think it's interesting because it's just like when I watch it, Cameron did an amazing job of their first meeting, finding her at this super vulnerable. I mean, she's about to take her own life, supposedly. And he has compassion for her. Yes, she's beautiful, but he talks her off, saves her. And now, and this is something that's fun that we don't see in a lot of movies, like, your first interaction with somebody, you save each other in a way. She was done with this high society life. She wanted to just disappear. He just was drifting, really. And now they both have a secret on which they can build. And before this interaction, before they meet, they have nothing really meaningful. And now that they do, like, this is growing and it's based on, it was planted by, the roots are in a secret that they both have and they both share. And so Cameron does a beautiful job of making those roots go deeper and making the trunk grow stronger in their relation. And that's, it's a very valid point when people say, so she met a guy, she knew him for 2 days, had sex with him once, and he's who she's thinking about after a life of being married to another person and having children with another man. Like, that's her heaven, is this guy. But yeah, I think that goes right around to your the theory of the melodramatic memory of it. I think that really works.
I mean, even like Victor Garber is one of the few who isn't, but he is so, even his performance, the degree of it is so like haunted. It's so mild mannered and respectful. I mean, yeah, the Irish people are like the most Irish people. Like everyone is like the most.
Yeah,
They're
that's
just all the
true.
most.
Yeah.
Now, as far as farts, you just said something and it made me think of a thing, and now it's gone.
It happens.
It does. But I will tell you another thing it's another thing about aging with this movie is that I remember I had already seen Kate Winslet in Heavenly Creatures, and I don't appreciate like how young she is in this because I looked at this movie and they were both Leo and Kate both felt older to me. And I'm always reminded, like, oh no, she's playing under 18. I don't think she is under 18, but she's
No.
playing under 18. But I always was aware, like, I'm still looking at two young adults. But do you do this too, where like we're now like in our 40s, but like I'm aware you're young, you're kids, but I still look at you as older because I was younger when I saw this. But
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
you're children running around a boat, learning how to spit, you know.
I mean, when we were in high school, someone who was 4 years older than us might have well been the next generation.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, oh, we went to see Superman yesterday, and the new Paul Thomas Anderson trailer came on with Leo, and it's just like, I I love that there's a meme going around of like, this is what AI says this is what Jack Dawson would look like if he was still alive today. And there's just, it's just an old ass Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
I mean, his girlfriend would still probably be 17, like in Titanic, but Leo, yeah, I mean, we're getting, it is that weird thing where like high school kids keep getting younger, but we're not getting older.
Yeah.
Right?
I still watch Breakfast Club and like John Bender is like my senior, even though I'm like twice his age now. No, I remember what you made me think of. It's funny because when people bring up things like, oh, she met a guy on a boat for 3 days and she boned him, and I go, you are presenting facts. And when you're not watching the movie, when you are just out and about in your life and you're on your phone, you read that, you it's true. But you're not watching the movie when you read that post or when you read that meme. And I'm a really big proponent of movies' tonality. And what really pisses me off is when audiences do not get on board for whatever reason, whether it's they're doing a double screen or if they're just on their couch and they're too distracted by just the fucking phone ringing, the windows open, the ice cream truck is outside, whatever reason, or if you're just an asshole. When people willingly don't go on the journey. Because I've said this on other episodes in the past. I don't think there's a lot of specific rules when it comes to making movies. There's so many different approaches, so many different things. But I do find there is one constant that I have, over my many years, have come to find as like one fucking rule, which is just the fact that like the tone matters.
Mm.
I don't care about, there's certain degrees of acting and styles and approach. The movie's tone is important because it's what pulls you in and keeps you or not. Sometimes when you lose the audience, it's because you, the filmmaker, is fucked up for whatever reason and you let your audience go. But a lot of the times when you're in that theater, continuity errors, plot holes, certain things don't matter as long as you're keeping the tone and you're holding them in your hand. And flights of fancy, all these things don't matter as long as you've, and I say this a lot, seduced the audience in. And realistically speaking, was she on the boat for 3 days and she fucked a guy? Is it weird that, now all this, we're just talking about Jack and not the 60 years she's married to this guy and had a kid and grandkids? Sure. But also, at this point in the story, they fucking flew her out to the Titanic wreckage. It's gonna be on her mind.
Right.
And the thing about the movie that really pulls you in, because we're not telling the story of her 60 years of being married to someone else. And if you're paying attention and going on board with it, the thing that anchors it, the thing that makes me buy into it, is he's on the fucking door and he asks her to make this promise. And the next 60 years of her life are all based on a promise she made to him to keep going, to never let go, to live her life. And that life she lived is a promise she made to Jack.
Thank you.
So fucking get on board. Don't be a dick about it. Yeah, she boned him and it was a 3-day thing. It was a pretty important 3 days. It also was like a major historical event. I won't get into it, but I've lived through some pretty fucking tragic things. And they maybe only lasted an hour of my life. I still think about them once a week. you carry things with you. You don't forget about Jack. You certainly don't forget about Titanic happening. So, yeah, you couple all that with the fact that they flew her out to Titanic, I'm fine with it.
I'm gonna clip that for the beginning of the episode. But yeah, no, exactly. And it's like it's the whole thing where it's like, what, why are we coming to see a movie? To check it against reality, or are we just to get on board? Like when you buy your ticket, you're like, take me on a faraway place where I don't have to worry about Walt Disney's, I mean, whatever Walt Disney's message was. We're in a new place now. Forget about reality
Mhm.
and let's go on an adventure. Like it's the people who just go, well, that wouldn't happen because XYZ. And it's just like, come on, guys. Like what? If this
I
is not a historical biography.
I will get on board with any movie that's trying to seduce me into any world or tone it's going for. If for whatever reason you fail, like sometimes I think that's the movie's fault. And when the logic police starts going in my head, that's usually like afterwards when I'm not watching the movie anymore and I reflectively go, "Oh, hey, that's some bullshit." If I'm thinking that during the movie, that's the movie's fucking fault, not mine. But the people who just bring logic police with them into the theater, like, it's a real bummer. The one reason why I think people feel that way in particular is that last shot
Mm.
of her dying, because it's like when you die, you don't go see your husband that you spent all these years with. You go here. I'm like, she died over Titanic. She's on the freaking ocean. And I don't think she stays with Jack and all these strangers forever. I think she probably then moves on to her husband, but like, you know, you just watched a movie called Titanic with all these people. Do you really want the movie to end with her like and like I don't know, like who would be playing it? Like Bob Hoskins or someone going, oh, like who's this guy? No, she's got to go hold Leo's hand, and everybody claps for them because we were all a part of this major thing that happened. Why wouldn't you want that ending?
And yeah, I mean that ending is, I think it's what people wait for when they're flipping channels and they see it on, and you got to stay on and keep the channel on Titanic until that ending. It's just such a powerful piece of cinema. And what I loved, I got to meet the actor Louis Abernathy, who played, oh, he played Louis Bodine, the guy on the ship with Bill Pullman, the big old fucking ass.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
big old ass. He's got the bullet happy face shirt
Yeah,
on
the
on
sort
the
of
ship.
Watchmen thing, but not quite Watchmen. Yeah.
So he's good friends with Cameron and Bill Pullman from their USC film years, and Cameron asked him to write the script of Titanic, and Abernathy wrote it and gave it to Cameron, and Cameron said, "Thanks, I'm gonna make some tweaks." And when he got it back, the only thing left from Abernathy's original draft was the staircase scene at the end. So he's just like, James took his liberties with the story, but I'm just so glad that he left my grand staircase scene at the end. And it's just so interesting. But yeah, I think like when I first saw it, that was the most powerful thing, was just like all of her memories, all the nostalgia of seeing the shots, the live streamed shots for her of the ship, and seeing those beautiful ghost shots that Cameron did, where he blended
Oh yeah.
her story with the actual brand new Titanic, and then her passing, and then she's back on the ship, and there's everybody there, and she gets to see Jack again at least one more time. We don't know if they're going to spend eternity together, but they get another kiss. Like, and maybe that's just a thank you for telling our story. We're moving on, and like you have your own,
Right?
you get to pick your own observation or your own version of what happens next. It doesn't mean she's staying there with him forever on a sunken ship, but the reuniting of the two, and that new kiss is just like what, I don't know. That's what tugs my heartstrings.
I agree. I have nothing to add. I just agree. The thing that tugged on my heartstrings this time, though, because the other thing that's this movie has aged better, or at least maybe I've aged better. but there's well, I'll get to this. There's a few themes that stuck out to me, or beats that just weren't on my radar when I was 16. But
Mm.
the thing that really tugged at my heartstrings was the scene where she goes to the third class deck and they're just dancing. It's very cliche. The rich person hanging out with the poors. We you know exactly what kind of scene you're getting. But what gets me in that moment is and I think this only plays because I'm in my 40s, but there's this moment, it's before the spin, but when they first start kind of dancing together, there's just like it's not hormones. They're not like horny. They're just enjoying each other and they're young. And like it reminded me of like what it felt like to just like a girl and want to dance with her, to just have that proximity. The music's happening and they're just there's something about the way they're smiling with each other that I just sort of went, "Aw, like you're really selling me on what it feels like to be young and falling in love. Good job, actors." Because it's not, there's no real dialogue. It's just the way they are with each other. And it just, that made me more emotional than any tragic beat that happens, any scripted moment or any line was just the magic that happens like when two actors occupy a space and they're just in the moment and something magic happens. And I can't even point to the exact shot or moment. It's just a feeling I got watching them together right before they start spinning.
Yeah. It's such a fun combination of he's a fly off the seat of your pants and go where the breeze takes you, paper bag in American Dream, plastic bag in American Dream kind of a moment, but she's breaking the rules and she's not supposed to be there, but she's risking everything because she just believes like this is where she belongs, where she lives, where she there's a couple of deleted scenes where she's explaining to Jack how she wants to be an artist and she wants to be a starving actor kind of a person, and he's just like, well, let's go do it. And it's right before his whole thing on when they're doing the spitting lesson. But there are a lot of deleted scenes that should have been deleted, but they really nailed that first moments of this could be a thing, as you picked up on. There's a deleted scene that happens at the end of that third party scene that is one of my favorite Titanic scenes, and it gives off so much end of the first date, I'm dropping you off at your door vibes. And people can Google it and YouTube it, but they're just walking along the deck. She's holding her shoes in her hand and they've had this fun time at the party, and then he has to drop her off at the first class door because he can't go in, and they see a shooting star and they say goodnight, and it captures so much of that vibe. I agree that it should have been cut for pacing, but I just love the scene as a deleted scene. It's the one deleted scene that I love.
There's a handful of deleted scenes I've seen in my life where like I get why the pacing's cut, but at least isolated on its own, I can still enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah,
And
this would be
that's
one of those.
right on. I'll tell you another thing that I never was on my radar, but as life has gotten older, I've become more and more and more and more of an animal person. So now when I see shots of the dogs coming out of the boat, I'm like, those dogs are gonna die. Oh no! Like, I know there's a bunch of humans in this story. Those dogs are all going to be floating, and thankfully they don't fucking show it. But like, there's two different shots of dogs onboarding, and boy, does it bum me the fuck out.
So the shot of the dogs onboarding is who I talked about earlier. The actress that owned the dogs was Alexandra Boyd, who made this movie, the documentary Ship of Dreams Titanic Movie Diaries. she's the one loading the dogs on when they're walking up the gangplank, boarding Titanic. There was there were actual scenes that James Cameron shot of a dog in the water after Titanic went under. It was a black bulldog, so I think he cut a lot of it because it was just so hard to see what it was in that water, but he was swimming around trying to find a place to live. My facts could be wrong and I'm not Googling, but I think there were 2 dogs that survived the sinking of Titanic. They were very first class passenger rich people dogs that survived. And I could be wrong. I could Google it.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Me too.
Let me tell you one of the biggest things I got out of this, watching it recently.
Yeah.
That was not on my radar when I was 16.
Okay.
And this isn't anything profound, but I don't revisit this movie often. I saw it in theaters 4 times. I bought the VHS, and I think I watched that maybe like 3 or 4 times. Got this on DVD and watched it once. Saw the 3D theatrical release, and then it has been a while. But it never really hit me how much watching Jack and Rose in the 3rd act, constantly running towards survival. What's the next step to just survive this? Contrasted with recurringly showing all these other supporting characters confronting their own mortality, accepting it. It's when I was a kid, I would just see these things. I go, "Oh, isn't that fucked up?" There's like a lady reading her kids to bed. Oh, how sad. That probably happened. There's an old couple in bed. That probably happened. But now to think about the fact that your protagonists are just fighting to stay alive, and to constantly show me people choosing acceptance. The captain just going like, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to close the fucking door, and I'm just going to watch all this water fill up because I know I'm going to die and I'm not going to fight it. This is happening. And there's many, many characters who constantly look at what's happening and they know there's no way out for me. To just go to bed with your wife and let the room fill with water. The idea of the fight in contrast to the acceptance of imminent mortality. I mean, 16-year-old me didn't even get it, but maybe because I'm in my 40s and I've got, like, there's more time behind me than there is ahead of me or something like that. But it just, woof, hit me. It hit me.
So it's cultural. Back then, men respected the seas, the oceans. And before they got on a vessel and sailed across any body of water, they kind of gave themselves to the fact that if this ship sinks, we're going down. Titanic was the first major disaster where it was now like the cultural narrative was now, if this ship goes down, so sailors were men. Women did not sail or go on ships, ocean liners, unless men were taking them. So there was a code within the oceanic community that was, if we're sailing across a body of water and we're bringing women with us, if the ship sinks, we're going to try and save the women or give them the best chance to survive, but we're all going down. In the Victorian era, this is something that's like totally dramatized by James Cameron's movie with all the running and screaming. Men from England understood, if we're sinking, we're going down. And we're going to be calm about it, and we're going to be as freaking cool as possible. We're going to have a glass of scotch in our hands. We're going to be dressed to our nines. And That's our lot. That's the gamble that we're taking by sailing across a body of water and challenging Mother Nature to let us cross. This was all a very cultural thing. Titanic changed it. Titanic was the first time women and children first was implemented. Titanic's captain, E.J. Smith, was asked by one of the first officers, should we start loading up women and children first? So it's this crazy thing, and it actually happened, and it's in James Cameron's movie. Both of his officers were there, and Captain Smith said, yes, women and children. This officer understood that as women and children only, and this officer understood that as women and children first, and they went to their separate sides of the ship. So there was one side of the ship that men could board the lifeboats if there were no more women and children around. And there was the other side of the ship where no men are getting on. Women and children only. So that part of it was totally historic, which is great. And he weaves in Cal's story of the guy on the other side's letting men on. But anyway, so to bring it back around, so many of the people on the ship were surrendered to the idea that we're going down. Like, we had a good run, guys. Sorry. But Jack and Rose are these fiery characters who are like, we can survive. We're going to survive. Whereas a lot of the older people, like the older couple in the bed, just cuddling as the water's rushing in, they are the Macy's department store owners that actually went down on that. I mean, it's James Cameron's portrayal of them, but they actually went down. They were just like, he begged his wife to get off, and she was like, not without you. And they were like, okay, so we're going down together. Great.
Now, question for you. Were they found in that room?
They were never found. Well, one of them was found.
Because I feel like if they were, I'm just imagining, if they were found in the room, the artistic license is, we're going to put them in bed together and embracing.
Oh, no,
we don't know if that happened, you know.
Well, a couple of things. So the last historical account of people seeing them together, they were sitting on deck chairs on the deck holding hands. They didn't go back to their room. That was a James Cameron thing. Okay. But also, as bodies sank to the bottom of the ocean, they dissolved over the years. So all that would be left are shoes, leather shoes. And that's why some of those shots in James Cameron's film are so powerful. When you see shoes, it's like, that's where a body was. But no, at that
right.
depth.
And all the meat and bone has been eroded over time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, but so you were saying, like, culturally, that's a thing. And it's funny because I'm just going off of pure emotion and perspective. You're telling me it's cultural, but also it's still kind of, I don't want to say like it works in the way I see it, but like if the culture is so traditional and, well, not traditional, but, you know, stiff, and this is my role in the boat is to go down with it, and a man, and these are women. That's, for lack of a better word, old fashioned. And Jack and Rose, through maybe intentionally, are slightly more contemporary characters. I don't necessarily know if I ever believed when Jack's going, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like, were there really like woo guys back then? I don't know. It's a very contemporary sort of energy. So I still see these young, somewhat modern-y kids contrasted against a little more old-fashioned.
He's an artist. He's a fighter. He tells everybody at the dinner scene, I'll sleep under a bridge one day and I'll be having champagne with you guys the next day. Like, what rules apply to me? And that's why he says to her, I'm a survivor. I'll be fine. Get on the boat. And then she gets off, and then he dies anyway.
And a lot of the people that are struggling, they're also struggling. They're fighting against imminent. I'm talking about like all the first class or second class, the Irish people up against the Gates fucking let us go. Versus, and I'm sure you'll tell me he's a real guy. I want to say he's like some Rockefeller, the old man who's like, no, I want a fucking brandy, and I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna sit down, and then, oh fuck, here comes the water. Why did I come in here and fuck? Like, I'm sure that's a real dude. But that's also he's not an officer. He's not a sailor.
No.
But he's still like, well, no, I'm gonna go into this room and
No, that's what I'm saying. So like first class, even if you're a passenger on the ship, you're like, if I get on this ship, like I'm going down if it goes down. And that was Guggenheim and his
that's
manservant.
right.
Yeah, yeah. One of the most wealthy guys. There's so many like conspiracy theories about the most wealthiest men on the world were on there, and then one of them like exchanged their ticket before they got on, and then the United States Bank was formed. But like there's all these conspiracies, deep state stuff. But
I've never Googled this. Can you tell me? Because the deep state stuff sounds fascinating. But just tell me real quick. Is he any relation to the Guggenheim Museum?
yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of Guggenheims, so I
No,
know
yeah.
two. One is a museum, and one is a dude on Titanic. I just,
Yeah, it was like Guggenheim, Astor, the Strausses, and J.P. Morgan were the most wealthy families in America. J.P. Morgan built Titanic, or his company did, and the other three families were on Titanic. They all had tickets, and then J.P. Morgan ditched out on his ticket the day before because he was sick, and then the rest of them all died on his ship that sunk in the. It's a conspiracy theory we could dive into,
I'm
but
sure you already have. Another,
oh yes, yeah. But no. So yeah, it was a thing where you just respected the ocean, and if the ocean was taking your ship, you're going down with it. And so Titanic was really the first time where women and children first was implemented. And that's why, a lot of men went down. Most of the survivors were women who didn't get interviewed afterwards because women weren't respected by the media. And so all of the accounts that you have after Titanic sank were from usually like first class men who made it on board on the other side, on the side that was taking men. And that's why the villain has always been J. Bruce Ismay in every form of the story that's told, because he was the managing director of the White Star Line, and he's the guy who slips onto the ship when there's nobody else waiting, that still gets lowered.
we're right.
Yeah.
And has his own little like private moment as the boat's being lowered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
His
I
life
mean,
was ruined after that from surviving his ship going down. But like in all of his accounts after he got off the ship was just like, there was no one else around. If the ship was going down, it was going down with empty seats. I got on it.
mhm. Yeah, and that guy's great, especially with again, no line of dialogue, but we need you to we need you to give us a lot right now without saying a word.
He's the hunter in Jumanji.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That actor, I think.
yeah, that guy. I could pull up his name right now, but just to on it. And I mean, there's so many. I remember, watching this after watching like Fantastic Four, going, "Hey, Mr. Fantastic is in this," And there's a few of those, or also just like David Warner, just one of the all-time greats. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I remember seeing that in theaters of the four times, and every fucking time when Kate is going and partying with the third class people, and David Warner's kind of coming down the stairs watching, you could hear everyone going, "Oh, oh, fuck!" Like he's so good. The valet,
Yeah.
not even valet. We'll call him my valet. No, he's great.
Were you
Uh,
a were you a Scream fan in high school?
oh yeah,
Yeah, so he was Sydney's theater
theater
teacher in
teacher.
Scream
Yeah,
2. Yeah.
yeah. I'm a fighter. No, I don't believe you. I'm a
So,
fighter. Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, and come on, he's Sark in fucking Tron. Like, God, the whole career of amazing performances. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze.
Was he in that?
Yeah, he's the
Nobody
one who
else
works
was.
at TGRI. He's disposing of the ooze, and there's one canister left, and Shredder kidnaps him because he makes Toka and Razar. Like
Wow.
he's like he's like the most important human in that movie besides like April O'Neil.
Wow.
Yeah,
And then he's in Titanic.
and he's in Titanic. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, and have you ever seen Time After Time
I don't think so.
with Malcolm McDowell and Mary Steenburgen?
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't often recommend like, hey, you got to see this movie a lot. Where I'm like, you got to see this movie. But it's Nicholas Myers who wrote, who directed Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, and who went on to write many, 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 many Sherlock Holmes stories. Even to this day, he writes new Sherlock Holmes stories. Here's the pitch, real quick. Ready?
Yes.
David Warner is Jack the Ripper. He is fleeing the police from his final murder, and the theories that he might have been a high society person in this story are correct because he's friends with H.G. Wells, who has just told his friends like, I have invented a time machine. So Jack the Ripper steals H.G. Wells' time machine and goes to like 1986 San Francisco. H.G. Wells follows him, so now it's H.G. Wells hunting Jack the Ripper in modern times. And it may sound silly, it's so fucking not. It's really good.
So it's like Enchanted,
Yes,
but
but like but Jack David Warner, like, he sees a TV and he sees like just the way crime and serial killers, and he's like, I was just born in the wrong century. Like, I'm gonna thrive here.
I love it. I'm going to watch
It's
it
it's so good.
immediately. Yes. Can't wait.
Anyway,
Thank you for the rec.
I promise you, I don't know anyone who's ever seen it and was like, that sucked. Why'd you like? It's You will be charmed by it. It's a very
Like
effective movie.
time after time, like somewhere in time. No, yeah, okay, let's go. Let's
Yeah,
get it.
we've mentioned both time movies in this episode. I don't want to ignore a few other little things.
Let's go.
Little things like it's curious how things age. I'm trying to look up her name. I'm terrible, and I've seen her at conventions. But the Irish mom farts. What's her name?
Francis Fisher.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. The mother of the. I always call her Vasquez from Aliens, but she's in a bunch of James Cameron movies.
Hmm.
The mom who's reading her. She calms her kids in the hallway, and then later
Yeah.
she's reading her kids to bed.
Yeah.
Fuck. Oh yeah, Jeanette Goldstein.
Yeah.
Jeanette Goldstein is John Connor's foster mother in Terminator 2, and she's Vasquez in Aliens. And I remember here's how I just want to point out how culture has shifted. In the 90s, I would look at Jeanette Goldstein and I'd say, wow, she played a Hispanic person in Aliens. And now she's playing Irish. When you could do like different accents and play different races, like that felt like what a stretch, you know? Fast forward a few decades and you start to wonder like at what point is it, it's not as full blown as Fisher Stevens playing Indian, doing brown face in Short Circuit and Short Circuit 2. But I feel like if you were making Aliens and you're making Titanic now, the way we cast things now, you probably definitely would have cast like some sort of actual white or white presenting Irishy type person to play this mother. You would have definitely cast a Hispanic person whose last name wasn't Goldstein to play a Hispanic character named Vasquez, but like there's no criticism, but it's just fascinating how like 16-year-old me was like, wow, what range? And 44-year-old me is like, well, that's an interesting career of like how we accepted things back then versus how we accept things now.
Yeah. That's
Because
it. It's wild. Like
I'm
how
very aware of the freckles that are on her. Like that's makeup.
how many times can James Cameron kill somebody? Right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, especially Terminator 2 with the liquid metal knife through the. No, wait. We don't actually. No, it's the husband who gets the knife through the face. She's already dead. But she gets to do the liquid metal knife into hand thing. I mean, she's great. That's the thing
Remi-
is she's great.
Remind me how to spell her first name.
Jenette.
Oh, I
Jeanette.
tried to pull it up. So I had her record my podcast intro
Dude,
for my
legend.
podcast as the Irish mom. And yeah, no, she's super cool. Like she was obviously doing movies in a time where she could morph and change into, whatever. There wasn't, oh, sorry. There wasn't the backlash if you tried to go cross
Right.
cultural. But
Because she's of Jewish descent, but her family's from Brazil. So she's an interesting mix.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's a super awesome person, and
Great.
she recorded an intro for my podcast for me that I've used for several episodes. And she's still around. She's doing conventions and stuff and pushing her own. She's very buxom, and she's got her own line of supportive undergarments
Oh,
that are designed for those that are within her same kind of genetic shape.
I did
And
not. I love finding out that when people have these like businesses,
yeah,
like like Burt Ward makes dog food, you know, like
does
just
he really?
fast. Yeah, he has a line
Take
of
the
dog
cheese.
food.
I love that.
Yeah, she's also in Near Dark, which is for my money one of the best vampire movies ever made. So she will always like I love her.
She's
Uh,
out there. She's on the socials. She'll respond if you DM her, and she's awesome.
I believe it. I've heard nothing but good things from people who meet her at conventions.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so yeah, it's just interesting. With the I'm just bringing up the little things. The other thing that like I don't want to say is aged, but like when people bring up the fucking door,
That bothers you?
well, I used to be one of those people, so I'm also accepting. Here's the 2 points I want to make about the door.
Okay.
When you look at it from above, it is not 100% flat surface. That whole side has like this big like lip. So it's not just like, oh, two people can easily fit on it. Like, no, there's like there's not that whole like lip it wouldn't work. It's not flat. And two, even if you manage, sure, hypothetically, could maybe two bodies if they were sitting Indian style and not lying on it, maybe. How do you get both on it without it capsizing? They try it in the movie and it flips. So like, calm down about the door thing. I used to be like, oh, she fucking should have moved her ass over and got on the door. But like, you're cold. You're cold. You're wet. Your joints. It's gonna flip over. And when you look at it now, when you look at over the head shots of her on it, here's the thing. There's not that much room.
Yeah.
There really isn't. Anyway,
Uh,
I feel like that argument hasn't aged well over time. I feel like just look at the movie. Maybe it's because it's in high def. And I go, no, really look at it. Where is he supposed to go? On VHS, we're like, oh, look at the shape. He should be on there.
I have the answer.
Ooh.
People don't want to hear the answer. It's not a door. It's not a door.
Okay, what is it?
It's crown molding from the first class dining room that you can see as they enter the space. Anytime you watch someone entering the first class dining room, it's over. It's a piece of paneling over the actual doors of the first class dining room. So this is something that has haunted James Cameron. So that James Cameron has two main regrets from making Titanic, and one is making Officer Murdoch shoot himself in the head, and the other is not making this wood panel smaller, and
Oh.
also not pointing out that it was not a door, but it's crown molding. and it's based on a actual replica of crown molding from Titanic in the dining room space, but none of that was explained, so everybody just thinks it's a door that was super buoyant that she could be on. So there, if you Google like what part of molding was this, like there's all of this on the internet if you want to actually find it. But it's a very thin piece of wood and would not have held. They originally brought a piece to set that was about 25 to 30% bigger than that for them to film on, that they knew she could float on. And Cameron looked at it and said, people are going to look at this and say, he could get on that too. Go make that as small as humanly possible that she could float on. And so they went and did that. And meantime, dollars are burning and they're making it as small as they can on set. And so they came back with this piece. And so they put her on it and they could get her to actually float on it. But if he got up on it, it wouldn't work. And so they were like, this is the size, this is right, we're going to film it. And so while it probably could have been smaller and should have been smaller for the filming of the movie, nobody knew how many arguments would be made over the next how many decades of they could have both fit. But you see him assess while he's still kind of got his wits about him, and he realizes this is not going to work. And so he makes the decision, like, I would rather make sure she survives than both of us get on this, make it like, and both of us die. So Mythbusters did a whole thing on it decades later, and they said, okay, so based on this wood panel, we figured out how we could make it work. So if she took off her life jacket and floated it under the wood panel, she and Jack could both be on it and not be submerged so much in the frozen water that they would both die. But then, so like this thing is haunted Cameron to the point where in the 25th anniversary thing, he launched his own documentary, like putting people in this frozen water with this piece of panel, like just to try and figure it out. And it was just this whole thing where it's like, if they were both on this panel of wood, both of their weight would submerge it to where they have a certain amount of their body in the water that would shut them down and they would die. They could balance together, but like hypothermia would kick in at a certain point if it was that submerged. So it just it all went back to where Cameron was like, Jack realizes as he tries to get on it, and it's so just like, if we're both on this, we're not going to be up on top of the water enough for one of us to live. So if one of us is going to live, it's going to be you.
I'm so glad you said that, because that was my other concern, is the weight. So,
and it all comes around to what James Cameron will always say in any interview when people bring this up, is that it's Romeo and Juliet on the Titanic. One of them has to die. I'm sorry, one of them they can't both live.
Right. I mean, to me, it's a testament to how much the movie works that people fight for decades to explain why he could have lived. They want to see Jack and Rose together. Like, yeah. People wouldn't be fighting this hard if they didn't care a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, on this 25th anniversary back in the theaters, people are like, if I go see it again today, will Jack live? And it's like, come on.
No, that's what we're here for. We're here to see the doomed love story. It's but also, like, I always thought, like, if you it managed to like drop them both via crane right onto it. Like it would eventually go though because they're both like he weighs more than her. Like you're doubling the. This doesn't make any sense to me. I don't. And then also like, oh well, in theory, if she had the forethought to take her vest off, like it's
And
Titanic,
put it
everyone's
under
dying
the
around
weight.
you,
Yeah. Right.
and like your joints, it's freezing cold water. Like no one's thinking straight. No one's motor functions are like this is a bunch of silliness.
Yeah. It's just, people got to find something to be like, oh, that movie sucks because.
Yeah. I mean, I could nitpick things, and even and my fun thing is I can nitpick stuff, but I could also hand wave it away in the same time. For example, she has already had sex with Jack. They leave. The iceberg happens. They're like, I think they're in a hallway. And I noticed that she's still got like perfect lipstick on. I'm like, what the fuck is she wearing lipstick right now? Wouldn't that have all rubbed off during sexy times?
Yeah.
Why is it perfect? Like, but that's is that? But here's my hand wave away, and it's not in universe. It's a fucking movie, dude. Like sometimes that just shit just happens. Like of all the things that are going on in this movie, like who cares? It all depends. Like, and I'll give you a really weird example, but like where I can't excuse it is the sixth Resident Evil movie. Resident Evil, the final chapter, is like the post-apocalypse. Like zombies have won. Like everything, it's like Mad Max. Like it's done. It's done. And Mila Jovovich is on a motorcycle. She's fighting zombies, and she's got like red lipstick on. I'm like, who are you putting makeup on for? Like, what? Why do you have lashes and like I get that it's a Hollywood movie and she's got to look pretty. I can't believe it in the post-apocalypse, but for Titanic, I'm like, whatever, whatever. Fuck it, it's a movie. Sometimes, Paul, fuck it, it's a movie.
Fuck it.
Yeah, and that's one of them. And there are other times where like Leo's in the water and they made sure like, oh, we got to make his lips a little purple because it's fucking cold, and they do all sorts of attention to details that are accurate. And then sometimes she's just wearing lipstick post-coital, and I don't understand how.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but whatever.
Can I mention so the movie's full of like setups and payoffs. Setups and payoffs. That's
like
right.
the spit.
Yeah. So that was so originally in the script, the spit, since you brought it up, she was supposed to stab him with her hairpin. But Kate Winslet said, wouldn't it be great if I spit in his face?
I love when that happens.
Love that.
I love when a callback or something was never meant to be, and some outside force makes it.
But one callback that I never realized in my years of loving the movie was the iconic line when she is, when they're in the vehicle in storage and in the mailroom, and she invites him to violate her. What's that line?
Put your hands on me?
Yeah. So that's a payoff to after he saves her, Cal is deriding Jack and says, what makes you think you can put your hands on my fiancé? And she carries that with her in her brain rent free to the point where she's like, so there's another deleted scene where Cal basically says, I'm the only person who's had sex with you, to Rose in private. And so she's gonna be like opening the door for Jack, and she's gonna open that door with a throwback to throwing her right back in Cal's face. Put your hands on me.
I like that. Never thought about that till right now.
Yeah. Goes under the radar.
I like that you went into an over-the-top Cal performance, because that's...
Oh, I'll do it all day long.
Yeah,
I put the coat on her!
That's one of my favorite things to quote.
Yeah.
Because there's that pause. I put the coat on her! So good. But also, I mean, again, this goes into the grandness of some of the acting choices of is that idea when she's jumped off the boat and she's reuniting with Jack at the bottom of the stairwell, and he looks at from the top, and he's essentially lost or lost
Mm,
her,
yeah.
and his valet David Warner's like, come, let's turn around, and he has this moment. It's so woozy of like my whole world. I'm losing like, and then he reaches for the gun. But I love how just like, woe is me, what's happening? I can't possibly lose. I'm like, yeah, that's you got to be here for the melodrama, everybody.
Another setup is the scene earlier where the valet says, I make my own kind of luck, and shows him, this is where I keep my gun. And so in this moment of Cal being like, he's like, I know where to get a gun. Thank you, sir. Yep. Throw your
Yeah,
jacket wide open and take it right off you.
I mean that is quite like. I mean, that's not even like Chekhov's gun is usually a little more crafty, but that is like a very Chekhov's gun, quite literally, right
Yeah,
there.
it's true.
Yeah. Got any more?
Got any more what? Setups and
Subs
payoffs?
and payoffs.
Oh gosh, there's so many. Um, mm, mm, mm. I mean, that's all I can think of right now.
Okay.
Off the top of my-
If anything pops in there later, let me know.
yeah,
Um, another one of the other things that really, actually, I'll tell you a little moment that really worked for me that it never really, again, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but
yeah,
when I think it's when Kate she's either I always just call it, it's Kate and Leo. Come on.
sure.
But when Rose, I don't know if she's first looking for Jack. I think it's once it's like, I need to go find something. We don't have the keys. I'll go find something so we can get you out of here. And she's going down the hallway and all the lights go out.
Mm,
And the movie just stays with her for like what must be screen time, maybe 15, 20 seconds. But the fact that the movie for like 10, 20 seconds becomes a horror movie where like we play into the fear of like, oh fuck. Because like just in general, like the dark can be scary. You're already taking what feels like creature comforts, couches and hallways and fucking plates and forks, and we're now throwing water, and Mother Nature cares not. It's all this invasion, this death basically invading. It still feels like I'm on a boat. I still have the comfort of light and electricity, and then all of a sudden, like you take light away, you take electricity away, and you're that much more removed to just like literally dead in the water, like out in the ocean. And just the way it stays on her face, and the way I'm there with her, and I like it's played scary.
mm,
16-year-old me didn't get it,
yeah.
but adult me was like, oh my god. When the lights come back on, I'm like, oh thank god. Like I know we're still all fucked here, but like, oh thank god.
It is a cinematic masterpiece in so many ways, but yeah, definitely when the lights go out and you just hear the hull, this ship is supposed to be unsinkable, and there's water rushing in, and the lights go out, and you just hear of like the hull bending. It's just like so freaking scary. And yeah, it's intense. I did want to circle back to one thing that you mentioned about the gates. The gates weren't that the gates are a unproven James Cameron
Dramatic
made.
effect.
Yeah, so there were gates, but they were like waist high, and so there was never let us in. Wow, we're caged animals, really, on Titanic. But that's a side note. But anyway, just to think, like, just to put yourself there in a sinking ship, and you're being guided by the grace of actual light, and then the light goes out and you're underwater at this point, even though the ship's still taking
Right.
on one. And one of the amazing things about there was a team of Titanic crew members who sacrificed their lives to keep the power going on board, to keep the lights lit until the very last opportunity. They were all in the bottom level of the ship, working to keep power on board, so everybody wasn't in the dark while they tried to survive. That's another just super tragic part of the reality of it. But yeah, I mean, James Cameron as a fan of the film, like imagine just being such a Titanic enthusiast that like you get to use the Titanic sinking as a playground for your Romeo and Juliet story. Like, what opportunities can we take to sit and actually draw some suspense and make some memorable moments? That's a really good one. Throwing it back as another aside to a setup and payoff that you didn't see, and for very good reason. When Jack is handcuffed to the pipe and Lovejoy, which we love the irony of his name, Lovejoy, the valet, Lovejoy, and he's just hates Jack with every cell in his body. This is from Cal or whatever he says. His line is punches him while he's all tied up. There's another scene that was deleted, thank God. After I put the coat on her, Cal says, Lovejoy, I give you the diamond if you can get it. So Lovejoy takes his gun back and walks into the dining room. So as water is filling the first class dining room, there's like this suspenseful, it's like a 7-minute sequence where Jack and Rose are trying to hide from him as water's coming in, and he's trying to find them. Finally, he finds Rose and points a gun straight at her face. And Jack comes up and punches him, and they get in this fight in the sinking dining room. And at the end, like, Jack wins, but then he brings it back to this is for the Chippewa Falls Dawsons, and punches him right in the stomach. This is the thing. Like, all of these deleted scenes, thank freaking goodness they were deleted.
I could see why that was cut.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because first of all, I was waiting for some sort of, like, he's gonna say something when he hits him, but like that's the line.
Yeah,
that's not even like, I thought you were gonna call back to the earlier scene and have like the line, I don't know, like connect. Yeah, okay.
Well, the first scene, so when Lovejoy punches him, he's like, "This is for Kellen and Hockley and family," or something like that.
Yeah, okay. But that reminds me though, one of the things that really works about this movie. Really works. I actually thought about this way earlier and I never actually dove into it, but I don't know if you always hear about wanting to hit all 4 quadrants. I mean, I guess in theory it does do that, but one of the things is, why was it a hit? Well, it was a love story. So there's a big chunk of that 4 quadrant, not stereotype, but that are female. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio. It's tragedy. A lot of women are going to want to go see that. You hear a lot about the men, the boyfriends who are dragged along. Oh, but I really like the second half. Ooh. But there's something to that. But the other reasons why I think it's a hit is that it's not just that it's history, but that it was very highly publicized how much James Cameron is into this shit. So you felt like you were being guided by someone who really knew. You were in the hands of a Titanic expert, like when you went to go see Titanic. And just the other thing is just the sheer spectacle of it. Like, I think those 4 factors, everyone who went to go see that knew that they were going to see a partially real boat and a bunch of actors, the attention to detail and all this crazy shit was going to, you were talking about what does it take to get like an actor on set, this set that was built, make all this happen. And I'm like, yep, you're right. Now add water to filling up into the fucking room with it and then doing another take, and so there's a lot to it. But one of the things about the successful second half of the movie is just how much, I don't want to call it action because it's not always just, shooty, but like activity. How they find oh darn, we're in a pickle, but like, oh, I'm handcuffed. And now she's got to go on a journey to get him out. Now we're out. Oh, we're in this hallway and there's a little kid and oh fuck, the water's running. And now, oh shit, now we have to go up. They keep finding these little beats. Oh, we ran into Fabrizio and the Irishman and now we have to go back up to, like, they craft. And just when you think we're done, Like, oh, we're gonna get on the boat. Oh fuck, she jumped off the boat, and now Cal's got a. Oh my god, he's got a gun. Like it just keeps spilling into the next like story beat, but it's an active story beat. It's all active, but what it does, it takes you through these spaces that if we didn't write that action scene, then we wouldn't have had Jack and Rose run into Victor Garber again, and we wouldn't have got to see all the shit start to spill off. Like again, the script is really meticulous in how it brings the action through all these spaces, and it is action. So it gives people this big spectacle. And I can't rave enough about all the stunt people who are at the top of this and action, and camera people sliding down with them, falling off into, I mean, it's all controlled, but still, like, that's not, I mean, there's a few little CGI things, but I mean, these are all real people doing real things. And that's, I don't know, the big selling point, and it really, this is the other thing that really hit me watching it this time, was the complete lack of green screen, digital people, digital everything. When there's a shot of the front, I presume it's the bow, when it's first dipping in and you just see the water kind of spilling over. And I'm like, that's real water. That's a real front of a fake boat. None of this is fake. And when I look at that, it's real. So I think about myself being on that boat, and I would go, oh shit. Just the way anyone else who was there looking at it would go, oh shit. Like that makes every concept of the sinking feel tangible, is that it's a real front of a boat, really tipping in. Everything that we're looking at from here on out was built and done for real. And it may not, I still maintain maybe Lord of the Rings might be the last one, but it's one of the last ones. It certainly was something that we were all feeling when we went to go see it, but it plays so much better now when you look at it and go, no, 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 we had to plan and shoot all of this for real. It's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing. And even though it was not my favorite movie of 1997, I still like Good Will Hunting more. I still like As Good as It Gets more. Still like LA Confidential more. But like, I still give it all the props, and I get why it won so many Oscars. I think everything it won is deserved. Even Best Picture. Even though I like those other movies more, when you look at Hollywood that year and what they put out, what an achievement, right?
Absolutely. Well, James Cameron has always been a trailblazer, and anytime an artist is able to do something that they're very passionate about, this was very close to his heart. This was very close to every part of for him to create a new action movie. And you talk about it like, so side note, the Titanic hits the iceberg at exactly the midpoint of the movie, which is interesting because it's like there's the same amount of time setting it up to the action movie, horror movie part of it. And James Cameron is, he was known for action movies with a strong female lead, but he loves Titanic and he wants to tell that story. So for him to be able to just achieve that, and not only that, but be awarded 11 Academy Awards for his work on this, it was never a money grab. This was it. There's AI sequels online. You can find trailers for AI sequels, but Cameron was like, no, we're done.
And you've talked about being on the Queen Mary, which I think is the location of Titanic 2 and Titanic 666, right?
Oh yeah, Poseidon Adventure, Queen Mary's been but
I need to see Titanic 666. That looks like my cup of tea.
Maybe we could do like a live stream viewing of group viewing of that because I haven't seen it either, and that would be a lot
I'd
of
be
fun.
I'd be down.
But yeah, I mean, for what it is and what it meant in its time and how it resonates today, I think a tip of the cap is due.
I don't think the kids today with the TikToks really get leading up. First of all, it's supposed to be a summer release, and I remember seeing the posters that said Titanic summer, and it got pushed the fuck back by 6 months. And I remember regretting. I remember seeing that poster for sale, like at a music and poster shop in New York that summer. And I was like, oh, I should, because I know that as far as posters go, there's gonna be a little value to the original summer version.
Mm.
Um, by the way, that summer I was in New York and I saw Titanic the musical while I was out there, and that was a hell of a production. Um, but I don't think the kids really appreciate how leading up to it. I don't say the buzz was bad, but the buzz was like, do you know how fucking expensive this movie is? It's gonna flop simply because of the price tag. And it wasn't just that, like, oh, it's made its money back. No one knew that it was going to be a juggernaut that dethroned the highest grossing movie of all time, fucking Star Wars. There was, like, this movie was huge, and no one saw it coming, except for I feel like maybe James Cameron. He was like, no, 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 this budget, like, it's not ideal. But I remember when Avatar was coming out, and Avatar was like, Jesus, why is this movie so fucking expensive? And I feel like, I'm like, guys, you did Titanic. It's going to happen all over again. And then Avatar 2, people are like, does anyone give a shit about these fucking blue cat people anymore? I'm like, guys, do not bet against James Cameron. Avatar 2, $1 billion. Again, like, there's something, he gets it. I don't know what. He gets it.
There was a lot of, and like I can tell you, like secondhand from a lot of the people I've spoken to and interviewed on my podcast that were there. People thought this was gonna be a big flop. Like no one was sure if they were going to tell their friends or family that they were in it. They were there every day when the studio execs came down and screamed at James Cameron in his trailer with the window open and everyone could hear it, and James Cameron would scream back, and everybody thought maybe this might be a B movie biggest flop of all time. And it wasn't, and it took a lot of deleted scenes and a lot of preview screenings. And it, you know, it was supposed to be out in the summer, but it took some more time and came out in Christmas time and became what it was. But nobody knew what it was. If anybody knew what it was going to be, no one would be doubting Cameron or making him spend his own money on it. And so it's a really great point. It's just like he was totally underwater, but he totally believed in it and he knew he was going to get something great in the final product, and he did.
He really did.
Yeah.
Before I feel like we're winding down, but I want to just touch on a few things.
Yeah.
I mean this in a good way, but every time I watch this, when old Rose looks at the TV and sees the report on they found the drawing, the second we get to like the helicopter flying over, I'm like, God, this is so Spielbergian in a really good way. Like we push in on her, we fly with. I'm like we're this close to hearing like the John Williams score leading into like Isla Nublar, you know. And I don't think that's an accident. I'm not saying he's aping Spielberg, but I'm saying that like it's telling you like, hey, this is a big Hollywood movie. Like it's I don't want to say familiar, but like both of those examples are pulling me in for a really good time.
Yeah, you're making the jump from being a really old lady making pottery at home to flying out to where Titanic sank with a big musical score. Yeah, it definitely gives that.
I would like to see a fan edit of the Jurassic Park music playing over that, I guarantee it would work. All I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Uh,
I, my daughter has made a wicked edit of Bill Paxton saying, "Okay, Rose, can you tell me who the woman in the picture is, or who the woman in the drawing is?" To Alphaba, it's me. And it's really effective.
that is dope. That is dope. Um, a little thing. It's funny. I was such a fucking little snob when I was a teenager. Um, I didn't love the screenplay as far as the dialogue goes,
Yeah.
but I would still point to it because credit where credit's due. Whenever I was having a conversation with someone about screenwriting and the subject about voiceovers, especially because there's so many movies with bad voiceovers, it's one of the lazier kind of crutches for writing. And I always would talk about like how you have to earn your voiceover. Like,
Mm,
does this movie need a voiceover?
right.
And how you use voiceover effectively. And even though I would poo-poo aspects of this screenplay, which I now don't, um, I would always point to it though, like, but here's a really good example. And it's when the voiceover is telling you something that the visual text isn't. And I love the moment, and I love it every time. When Cal is looking for Rose after the boat sank, all these survivors, and she's like hiding from him in the shawl. And the voiceover is her explaining how like the stock market crashes and he kills himself. But we are still seeing him alive. I'm like, that is how you use voiceover. Like, this is really effective use of voiceover. Um, and I don't know, I don't honestly like I get like a chill, but I always just get like a little whenever I'm still seeing him alive and she is telling me how he dies. Um,
Yeah.
James Cameron, he understands the structure though. You could poo-poo the dialogue all you want, you're wrong, but like structure, he understands. There's some really, really great, not just voiceovers, but the transitions from present to past and past to present, especially with the VFX in this he's playing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I don't know if I've thought of it in that sense, but knowing that Cal isn't in the picture anymore, and but still seeing him searching, it's kind of tragic in that or you question, is he searching for Rose or the diamond? And so that, I mean, that's the tragic part of it, and that's what I will be exploring in my fan fiction
Oh,
screenplay where Cal is the hero.
no spoilers for your screenplay. I'm not asking a question, but I would just like to say, I feel like he's looking for the diamond.
Oh well, yeah,
Okay. Did you see everything he was doing on the boat? Like, yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, we're in different times, and it's in Titanic world where James Cameron wrote it. Cal is 30 years old. He's a millionaire philanthropist, and taking a bride who's
Child bride.
17,
Yeah.
child bride 17, and trying to convince her to like act like she likes him. She's annoying as hell for him, but he'll give her the most valuable diamond he can find in the world to try and convince her to act like she likes him, just for these parties for people in society to think, wow, they're cute together. Like, he's not down there trying to make sure she survived. He's looking for his diamond.
I mean, and he doesn't know that. What are they? The DeWitts. He doesn't know that Rose's family is out of money.
Right. It's a good name, but the money's not there anymore.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts, sir?
Um, I mean, I'm just honored to be asked to talk about this movie on your podcast, as I respect you so much, and I love the platform to be able to celebrate this film. I love, so I went to see Superman yesterday with my kids and my wife, my family, and my kids have been raised on on all the movies that I love. And my daughter, she's an actress. She's been in movies and stuff, and she's figuring stuff out. She just finished the New York Film Academy summer camp, and so she's starting to understand writing, directing, storytelling. And after seeing Superman yesterday, she asked my wife and I, what do you think the best movie ever made is? And it's like, to explain to an 11-year-old child, like, well, that's a big question. Because it's like, I've always done like my top 5, my top 10 are just movies that I would watch anytime that they're on. It's never like technically what is the best movie that I've seen, because a lot of times that can differ from what movie am I going to just stop cruising the channels and leave on when it's on. And I think it's important to teach our kids, like, everything you create is a piece of fan fiction. And that's not a bad word. It's not a black scar. But what you're doing is you're taking everything that you love about everything that you've seen and making your best version of it. Original, different, but something that you can present to people because it's something you love and you think other people might be interested in seeing it. And while I don't know how many Superman movies have been made, my kids are big Jurassic Park fans. I don't know how many dinosaur movies have been made. I look at films like Titanic, and I look at filmmakers and creators who are just deeply passionate about what they're writing about, and I see how it can make an impact on future generations just based on what you're passionate about, what the story you want to tell. Everything that you're writing today is inspired by something that you've consumed before. So if I'm asked for any last thoughts, I would just encourage anybody out there to not give up on any creative aspirations that you have, and listen to the inspiration in your head and write what you want to write, do what you want to do, create what you want to create. And I think that's it.
That was so much more profound than anything I was expecting.
Sorry.
No, it's great. It's just, I was just going to end it like, well, I like Titanic. And yeah. But no, that was a lovely thing to share. I want to thank you for joining me in particular because of all your expertise on the subject and all of your time in the podcasting world. It's exciting for me to have you on and share your thoughts with others.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I'll come back anytime. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, and also, well, yeah, the other fun thing about this was this was an excuse for me to watch the movie, and I can honestly say that it was the most I've ever liked it. There's something about me getting older or something about the movie, but like I don't know if the movie's aged better or my viewing has aged better, but I'm really grateful that I got to watch it again this time at this point in my life, for both the movie itself, but then also just like this old man nostalgia, because I didn't mean for this movie to be such a big part of my life when I was a teenager, but like my girlfriend was obsessed. And when we went to an informal, I wore a white vest and a white tie because Leo wore a white vest and a white tie when he went to dinner. And I bought her a replica of The Heart of the Ocean. Like, that fucking Celine Dion song, the radio edit with the quotes, was on the radio all the time when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You like it or not, like this movie was for a certain age, a
Kids
big part of
today,
me.
kids today will never understand. If you left the movie and wanted to get a copy of the soundtrack on cassette tape or CD,
CD.
it was back ordered for weeks. Like you,
Mm.
it was there was no immediate. I want this song now that I can listen to immediately. It was you had to go to Warehouse Music or Blockbuster Music and order it, and wow, you or just listen to the radio and hope it comes on soon, which it did a
and then
lot.
and
But
then hit record on your tape deck.
that's right.
And if I remember correctly, the radio edit was available, I think, as a CD single. But it was a big deal.
Sure.
Like if you had the soundtrack, you had the song. But if you wanted the one with the quotes,
Right.
it took an extra step. Anyway, it was a fun experience to revisit my. Hey, look at that!
It's a CD. It's an actual compact disc. Physical media.
I
Kiddos.
didn't. You see, I didn't have the soundtrack, but I had the Titanic original Broadway cast recording.
There you go. That works. You're part of the
Um,
club. You're in the club.
yeah.
You're in the Titania club.
Are there any socials that they can find you at that you want to throw out?
If you're interested in Titanic, come find my podcast at Titanic Legacy, the podcast. And yeah, if you're interested in conversations with creative people, come over to CovePod, CovePod.com, or just find me on wherever you listen to podcasts. If you search my name, you'll find plenty of stuff that I do. And I'm so thankful, John Carlos, for you inviting me in today. Thank you.
And I'm grateful you spent the time. I'm a big. I say this outside off pod a lot to people, but like time is like the ultimate currency to me. So anytime people want to give of their time to me, so that we can share this with others. Again, if anyone out there is interested in more Titanic stuff, I got the links for Paul. There is a trove of information out there. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.